the area of market insight or market research. Liam Curran asked a question at the beginning, and then Kathy Keenan later on. So maybe Runar will go back to you first of all on those. And after that, then there's a few questions about the source of the material or sustainability. A question to Andrew about where does the jellyfish come from, what species, and also a question for Benoit about your approach to seaweed farming, and that's from the Irish Environment Network. We'll come back to those, Benoit, in a minute. And finally, a very interesting question just coming in there about health claims and people's experience in dealing with EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority. So we may come back to that later on. But starting with market insight. So the way that Kathy put the question, Runar, was, and it applies not just maybe to this project, but in general, do you think that the companies or the, let's say, projects that you're working with are looking at market acceptance all the time? Or is it something that changes, the process changes, the work packages as it goes along? Is there enough work being put into it, I suppose? It echoes in a way what Lena said there just a minute ago when she was finishing. It's not the same as sending a pallet load of salmon out, you know, and finding the price in France. The kind of market research, how is it working? And is it working well enough, really, that market testing?
Well, first of all, I think we need to differentiate between market research and marketing. Because they're two quite different things.
Sure.
But yeah, to answer, we do not change the product concepts once they're created. That would be impossible within the scope of a single project. I mean, we even had at the get-go, the Secretariat worried that we tried to reach over too much as we started anyway. So we would be hard pressed to actually revise the product concepts after they're created. So the way we've done it is that all work packages started at the same time. So the ones working on collagen extraction, chitin extraction, and market acceptance started at the same time to develop their methods. And now, as we have more information from the market acceptance work package, we can use that in order to sort of tweak the different product concepts created in the different work packages.
Great. Does anybody else want to come in on this broad question about the feedback, the market signals, the market research, market insight, and how it has changed? Andrew or Benoit, have you done something different, tweaked the product or stopped the product development based on market feedback? You want to put on your unmute yourself. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. So with our cell culture portfolio, when we entered the market, we knew that current biomaterials were animal derived, or some of them anyway, rat tail collagen being the main one used in that market. And we felt that a cleaner, sustainable, different chemistry version of collagen would displace some of that cell culture market for growing stem cells and for other types of cell-based assays. What little did we know that market was incredibly sticky, where you have 30, 40 years worth of research and researchers using particular protocols, and getting them to shift from rat tail collagen to a new form of collagen was incredibly difficult for what I would call the routine cell culture type stuff, the 2D cell culture on the plate. And you got the early adopters, which were fine, but they were very few and far between. But it did prove and get us some data. Through speaking to that market, we became aware that three-dimensional cell culture was where it was at. And a product called Matrigel produced by Corning was the market lead. Getting further information, we knew that it wasn't the best because of the way it's manufactured. It's a highly horrible product and does lead to so many off-target effects. But the research in that space was quite limited. There was a very few products that could compete with Matrigel. But we've developed our own product and we tweaked it to meet the market demands. And now we're starting to see revenues starting to do this now, because we've listened to the market, we knew where it was heading, and we hit it with some very good research and development to meet that.
Yeah, that's a big investment just in terms of that level of detailed market research. Benoit, do you want to comment on that part of it, about market testing, market insight? How does that guide your decisions about what to commercialize or what to develop?
Well, first of all, you need to have a strategy and stick to it for the company. But we have like a similar example as what Andrew was saying. At some point, the price of agar was agar for petri dishes was going so high because there was a shortage of gellidium in the world, that we were asked to develop some alternatives, and based on alginate, but not only. And this market was very versatile, so we worked on it for a number of months. And reached some of the specifications that were required, but very rapidly the situation with gellidium got sorted out, and the market completely died there on this product. So you need to be versatile. But in the meantime, we developed some knowledge and some knowledge and some patents also for this, and some know-how. Yeah.
Interesting. Lena, you have your hand up. Do you want to come in on this thing of market insight?
Yeah, I would. And I think it's a pity that so much of the knowledge about the market is not institutionalized, because it's not been part of the project, and it's in the businesses or in the head, like Andrew or Benoit. And luckily Andrew is back now after, with a new product, but he might have left to another industry, and we just lost that knowledge because it was not part of a project. And that's what we also see now. So in the cluster, there's a lot of knowledge about the possible markets, but it's also many truth, based on 10 years ago experiences. So when a startup comes with an idea, they meet like this: oh, we tried this before, no, it's not going to happen, you're not going to get that price. So we need to have another approach on the market and get more projects, so that we can put on the table, this is what we know, agree, not agree, okay, let's move on and create more knowledge. And like Nofima has for the seafood industry, like for seafood for food industry, they have excellent market researchers, and we of course can benefit from that now on marine health products. But we also need another competence combined with that. As I mentioned, it's more like it's another knowledge that they also need to bring on to the discussion.
Absolutely, yeah. Very interesting. So that whole question, and even that famous triangle that Benoit put up, perhaps that triangle changes shape over time. In other words, what was true 5 or 10 years ago is no longer true. Just to switch gears for a minute, just to questions that are coming in on sources of raw material, or maybe the question of sustainability. So and there's 3 versions of the question. One of them is to Andrew, which is, which source of jellyfish do you have? And this thing of getting it from the wild versus culturing it. Similarly to Benoit, your idea about, you have mechanized seaweed harvesting in France, and there was a question from the Irish Environment Network, as you probably know. That's a controversial question here in Ireland. There's possibilities of following Norway and following France, but we haven't done that in a large scale yet. So what's your policy on that compared to seaweed farming? And then the third question on Runar is about the source of the chitin, and how do you do that, and where is it coming from, and do you have a facility for extraction? But maybe starting with yourself, Andrew, that was a question from Damien Toner in BIM about the source of the jellyfish.
Yeah, so with the species is Rhizostoma pulmo, which is the barrel jellyfish, which can grow to 1 meter across in some cases, so they're fairly large. From a sustainability standpoint, when we started the company up in 2013, there was a marine biology group out of Swansea that had done some survey work on population blooms over a 10-year period, and noticed a trend doing this. And they had been approached by some people looking at harvesting for different applications in the food space. But we, by focusing our efforts in medical high-end markets, our harvesting is manageable in terms of tonnage. We are looking at other forms of sustainability for our jellyfish and different target species as well. So looking at aquaculture solutions and other solutions as well. But for the moment, the natural harvesting in and around the Welsh coastline provides us with a sustainable amount that we need to hit our market. We're in low digit tons, so really it's just the tip of the iceberg for what actually is the wild stock. When I think in 2007 on the Irish Sea, there was a 10 square mile bloom of rhizostomos spotted that was about 30 feet deep. So just to go to show that these are in the sustainability shouldn't be in question on that one.
And just staying with yourself for a minute, Andrew, another question has come in, just staying with jellyfish. You probably are familiar with the idea that there have been a number of large jellyfish blooms that have caused mortality for the salmon aquaculture industry, for example, in Ireland, but also in Scotland and elsewhere. Are any of the species involved here of interest to you as a source of raw material?
Sorry, so you repeat that? Sorry, you repeat that?
So are the species that have been implicated in the jellyfish blooms, we'll call them, in Ireland or Scotland, have you investigated the species? Are any of those of interest to you as a source of raw material?
Yes, they are. Absolutely. So we are evaluating another species at the moment as well for a different application. So yes, that would be very interesting. I'd be very like to follow up post this call. That'd be wonderful to talk further on that. Yes,
great. Very good. So going on then, Benoit, yourself, just in general, the question of sustainability, the issue of mechanization and so on, and what's your attitude or your policy towards getting supply from seaweed farming? Thanks. You're still on mute, Benoit. Yeah.
Sorry there. Just to keep in mind that this factory has been going on for the last 50 years, a bit more than 50 years, because we celebrated in 2018. We are definitely looking at the cultivation, because we participate in the likes of Gaeltachta, which had a strong focus on the cultivation of Saccharina latissima or Alaria esculenta, but mainly Saccharina latissima. However, the cost is still a driver, and there is about like a 1 to 10 ratio between harvesting and cultivation, roughly. But this cost, or this ratio, can be mitigated by the use of biorefinery, and this is what we did in the Genial project: is to take cultivated resources and produce some liquid extract first for the production of biostimulant, and then we extracted some alginate and we benchmarked it in our product portfolio. Now you won't be able to produce a high gelling alginate from Saccharina latissima. It needs to come from Hyperborea or other species with a very strong G structure. But it's important to keep in mind that the resource and the quality of your end product needs to be the same. So cultivation is definitely something that we are looking at, as long as we can reach our end product.
Okay, and staying with that exact question then about your specifications, I think you probably know the guy who asked this question, Tiago Enrique Silva, and he has asked about seasonality in the properties of what you're bringing in and the biopolymers. Do you have a range of values, for example, chemical properties, that enable you for reaching performance? How do you manage seasonality in the properties?
Is that still for yeah? It's very simple. Seasonality is regulated. So basically, what happens is that you have a period for that the year starts with the Hyperborea from, let's say, February to end of April or mid-April, and then you harvest Digitata, which is more which will provide the softer gel if you want. And then after the September, you're back to Hyperborea, which provides a stronger gel. So definitely the seasonality will influence the composition of the seaweed. And we also see the composition changing towards the end of the summer for Gaeltachta, which is good, very good in making some products. So we are able to manage the seasonality that way.
Okay, thanks very much. So moving to Norway, Runar, there was a question, specific one that you probably can see about how do you source the raw material, particularly your chitin, or do you have a chitin extraction facility? This is from Anya Donnell. And if you or Lena would like to come in on this discussion about seaweed farming versus harvesting from the wild, we'd welcome any thoughts from Norway on that as well. But first of all, on your chitin.
Oh yeah, So we decided quite early on in the project that we wouldn't have any formalized way of sourcing our material. So it's been based on acquaintances all the time, to be honest. So I was responsible for the king crab since I live in the north of Norway and probably had some contacts there. And Ilvo, our partner in Belgium, were responsible for the Chinese mitten crab, who are a problem along their coasts. So that's how we've sourced it, through acquaintances, more or less, and by purchasing of a fishing boat. So we just spent a part of our budget that way. So the actual chitin extraction is performed in Ilvo and the University of Ghent, and some of it at the Fraunhofer Institute in Acmhainn, Germany. Okay. We do have the capabilities here at Nofima as well, but in this particular project, we're only involved with the collagen extraction and marketing and communication and coordination. So yeah.
I know it's not your direct area, so maybe you don't want to comment on the question of the seaweed, but Lena, have you any thoughts on it from your perspective? The debate about sustainability and the sourcing from the wild, what Benoit was talking about there, compared to the idea of seaweed farming. It was really interested in this ratio of 10 to 1 that Benoit mentioned. In other words, that the farm seaweed would be 10 times more expensive. Have you any experience or advice from your cluster on this?
So the farming of seaweed is a very young business in Norway. Well, we had some actors for many years, but now it's growing. But we have a lot of small companies trying to start up, and of course the costs are very high at the moment, and most of them have a very big dream of going into nutraceuticals or pharma, but are more to the consumer market, Asia and Europe at the moment. But we have a long coast, and it's an area that the government really wants to put effort to increase. So I think there's a lot of possibilities, and also combined with the aquaculture of salmon, because of capturing of the CO2, and so it's an area that will definitely grow, and we have to get the highest value out of the raw material somehow, and also help these startups to manage that really big gap they are in now with the cost and customers. Can we go to the question about health claims, because
yes,
that's
please,
very
absolutely
interesting.
That's the next question. So EFSA, so yourself first, and then maybe Andrew and others afterwards, your experience of dealing with the health regulators.
Yeah, the others have more direct experience. I would just say that it's a big challenge, and I think if the regulations in EFSA and EU is to protect the customers. We don't want the market of nutraceuticals to be like a cobbled market, but what is happening now is that the regulations are so strict that we are not protecting the consumers, because now they cannot make a choice because they don't get access to all the research done on the different products. I mean, there's invested so much in the research and the results that could have a very positive health effect, but the consumers, you can't use it in marketing, and that's a problem. So just shortly.
Interesting. Okay. And there's a particular question, but I think maybe just to flag it rather than going into a big discussion on it because of the time, a man called Jim from Reward, treward.net. For biomaterial, there are incentives called T-rewards created for specific geo areas and so on and so forth like that. Which of these brands would be interested in collaboration. Does that ring a bell with any of you? Do you want to talk about tea rewards briefly? I don't think so, but perhaps Jim, we can ask, if people will leave that chat up, and if people are interested in afterwards. So a last question, which again is a very broad one, it's from Noreen Burke in Galway in the Irish Ocean Literacy Network, assisting about creating awareness among the general public. Do you think it's important to share the knowledge of your work and innovation? In a way, Lena, I'll put that back to you because it kind of echoes what you just said there a minute ago. There's research going on that people aren't aware of, and so people don't get the opportunity to test the products. How much of your time in your cluster do you invest in what we call general public awareness, and is it important?
It's absolutely important, and we try to invest time in doing that. But yeah, it's absolutely important, and it's impossible for the small companies to be up to date on all the topics all the time. So we try to help. Yeah.
And how do you try and do it, Lena?
Well,
by being the blue hotspot of the north, how does that work?
No, we try to have seminars, have meetings. It's not only one-way communication, but try to have discussions and share knowledge and discuss the knowledge. It's not always 2 lines under the last word. It's the truth. So we have to discuss it and develop new projects based on the knowledge that we have. Yeah.
Very good. So Noreen, I think in fairness, this work of ocean literacy, it happens at all levels. The last one is more a comment than a question, but Benoit, I don't know if you want to answer it. What can Ireland Inc. do to bring the likes of Ben and his experience back to the marine bioeconomy? So in 1 minute, Benoit, what do we have to do? You're on mute again. You're shy.
You don't have to do much to get me back to Ireland.
All right, there you are. Thank you for that anonymous question. So folks, it's coming up to 11:30. I just want to thank everybody who has taken part today, particularly the speakers. Some really good case studies, helps to give us an idea of what this blue bioeconomy is really like at the front line. So thanks to Andrew and to Lena and to Benoit and to Runar for your speaks. Also to our organizers, to Cliona and to mBithgheilleagar, well done, and to all the participants. And mBithgheilleagar, there will be other seminars coming up in this series. So watch this place, Blue Bioeconomy. Thank you very much, and slán. Bye-bye.